Welcome to the Busy Bee Chronicles. I'm Chelsea, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you the top 10 tips you need to know for the D23 Ultimate Disney Fan Event, formerly known as the D23 Expo. So whether you are preparing to attend this year's event or a future event, stay with me so you can be ready for all the stuff D23 has in store. So you may be asking, what is D23? Basically, it is exactly as the name says this year. It is the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. There are presentations, performances, exhibits, shopping, and it's all related to the past, present, and future of the Disney brand. This means a wide range of activities related to movies, parks, and even cruising. It's everything, and it changes depending on what Disney has in the works for each year. Now, our first couple of tips are very important information about before you arrive, so let's get started. Okay. Tip number 10, purchase your tickets as soon as they are available. If you plan on attending D23, you must purchase a ticket to enter the event, and you must be a D23 member. No, this is not a Disneyland park ticket. It is specific to D23. Now, becoming a member is free and easy. You basically just make a login for an account on their website, but if you want special perks and discounts, you will need to pay to upgrade to gold member status. Currently, I believe that is around $99 a person, with some discounts if you add affiliate members onto your account. So if you choose to become a gold member, remember to have something proving your status at the event so that you can receive those discounts and extra perks where they apply. Now, D23 happens every 2 years in Anaheim, California, and is held at the Anaheim Convention Center. And this year, it's also going to be at the Honda Center. Tickets go on sale months in advance and sell out very quick. So if this is something that you want to do, you do have to purchase the minute that they become available. There's also tiered availability, so basically certain members get priority to purchase first. And if you don't have any status that allows you to do that, you're waiting until the general public can purchase with less availability. This year and in years past, as far as I know, you can purchase a 3-day pass for all 3 days into the convention center, or you can choose individual days. This year they changed the evening events to the Honda Center, which you can choose to purchase or not purchase as a part of your ticket. The tickets that included this option were much more expensive, but I can see why they added it. In the past, the largest, most popular panels were still in the convention center, which could hold way less people than the Honda Center. And if you didn't get a reservation, which we will talk about that in a minute, then you would have to wait in a very long standby queue and still possibly not get in. So while it is an added expense, it does allow people to guarantee or not whether they get into these very in-demand marquee showcases, which is what they're calling them this year, which this year are the Disney Entertainment, the Disney Experiences, and the Disney Legends. Tip number 9, plan for hotel and transportation accommodations well in advance. Not only is this a very popular event in a very populated area, but you are right next door to the Disneyland Resort, where people who aren't even participating in D23 are still planning vacations and filling up rooms. So make sure that the minute you have dates for the next event that you know you want to attend, start searching for hotel accommodations. Also, if you are not from the area, make sure that you are not deceived by hotel descriptions. Some are much further than they seem, and they may not be in walking distance despite claiming that they are near Disneyland. Check the address and actual distance so you can judge for yourself how far you are willing to walk. Also, I've heard many people not from California come unprepared for how long it takes to get from one place to another and thinking that everything is closer than it really is. So really look into that. There are multiple hotels, for example. So if you see a Holiday Inn Express Anaheim and a Holiday Inn Express Los Angeles, trust me, they are nowhere near each other. Even just a few miles away, you must prepare for the added time traffic is going to cause. Check the address and check Google Maps during hours that you are going to need to drive around so that you can become familiar with traffic patterns before you arrive. Also prepare for high prices, but if you wait closer to the event to reserve, prepare for even higher prices and less availability. If possible, I recommend staying within walking distance to the event because people line up very early to get in, which means you have to be there even earlier to make sure that you can park in time to get into the line. Now, D23 advises that parking this year will be free for attendees at the Honda Center, but the parking for the Anaheim Convention Center will have a fee, and no overnight parking. Also, they shared that you can ride the ART buses, the public transportation in the area, for free to certain stations during the event days. So that is helpful, but it takes time. So again, make sure that you check schedules and plan if you are relying on that. Tip number 8. Manage your badge transfers right away and prepare for troubleshooting. So if one member of your party purchases all of the D23 tickets under their name, which you will probably do for convenience because you'll be rushing to purchase those tickets and make sure everyone in your party actually got their ticket. Not to mention, if you're partaking in the Honda Center, your seats are reserved and most likely you'll want to sit by each other. So you may need to do a badge transfer. Basically, transferring the badges allows each individual to make their own reservation selections when the time comes. So for example, my mom and I make D23 a girls trip. We purchase the tickets under only one of our accounts, and then the other sends a badge transfer request so that we can each decide what panels and experiences we want to select. And we're going to talk about that a little more in the next tip too. Now, my badge transfer this year did not go so smooth to start. When I would receive the badge transfer email and sign in through the link, it repeatedly brought me to my old 2022 badge pass with my old email. Not even the email that I used to log into the site with anymore. After much troubleshooting with Disney, who by the way were extremely kind and honest and helpful about the fact that other people were having similar problems and that they were working on it, I eventually got my badge to transfer. And I received my badge in the mail, and we got all of that taken care of. So I had to actually sign in through my old email, which fortunately I still had access to, but I logged in with my new email, and that's what allowed me to get in and actually finish the transfer. Obviously, there's still some sort of glitch since that's not how it should work, but if any of you are struggling with it, maybe attempt that if you have access to an old email that keeps popping up. Have the person send you the badge transfer to your old email, check the old email, but when you go to log in through that link, sign in with your current email and all of your credentials that are your current Disney sign-in so that you can get in and transfer your badge. Again, that's not how it should work, but I'm just throwing that out there because it worked for me if you're having the same problem. Just try all the ways that you can, and if you're having trouble still, contact guest relations at d23.com so they can at least see what the problem might be and help out. Also, something weird that I noticed is when they would write me back, it showed that it came from Shop Disney. So if you're reaching out and waiting for a reply, thoroughly check your email and all of your inboxes and look for responses from Shop Disney too, because that might be who it shows it's coming from. Now this year, any badges that you wish to transfer must be transferred by July 10th. It was originally the 3rd, but they did update their website as well as say when I had spoke to guest relations that they pushed the date to the 10th to allow for any complications people were having. Tip number 7, don't forget to select your presentation and experience reservations. If you've done D23 in the past, you know that once you receive your badges, you will then be given a date which the reservation process begins. Be ready to do it on that date. Don't wait and forget about it, as this is something that will greatly change your experience and how much you can get done and see at the actual event. The first time I did D23, I was very confused and panicked when I got my badge and then it said something about reservations. I was like, wait, I paid for it, but now I don't even know if I'll get a reservation to get in. I was so confused. But this is not a reservation to get into the event. It is a reservation for the experiences. That means different panels and performances or shopping experiences in different areas of the convention center. Not everything requires it, but without any reservations, you may only get the chance to see stuff by waiting in a standby queue. Then you also would have to hope that there was space for them to even let enough people in from the standby queue that they get to you in line and you get to go in. Because some of the panels, some of the experiences, they do fill up to capacity. So very important when you receive the info about selecting your reservations, know that you are still getting into the event, but you're going to want to set that date aside and be ready. Also, I don't remember getting to see my choices before actually entering the system to choose. Basically, it would give you a few options and ask you to put them in order of priority of what you wanted to get admission to. So you would choose which one was top priority that you wanted a reservation for and continue this process through their little inquiry. What gets hard is sometimes they give you a few examples and maybe none of them are of interest to you, but then the next grouping you like all of them and you still have to rank them in order of importance to you. Now keep in mind, you are not choosing and guaranteeing yourself a reservation to your selections. You are entering your preferences and then at random they will assign you a reservation from the groupings. You won't get all of your choices if you select all options, but at the same time, they let you know that if you choose only one thing from a grouping of options, they still can't guarantee you a reservation for that either. You just might not get any reservations from that grouping. So how I take it is that the more options you rank in your listing, the more possibility to get something. But also, if you really have no desire for certain experiences, don't select it, because that reservation could go to someone else who does really want that. Now, if you're attending with a friend or a group or something, you need to decide who wants to do what with each other. If you've transferred your badges, you can do your own thing. It doesn't affect each other. But if you want to go to panels and things together, then you want to make sure that you select how many guests you will have with you if you actually get a reservation to this experience. So for example, if my mom and I choose the same selection in one grouping, we still want to list, if it asks, that we will have one guest with us, because if only one of us gets a reservation for it, the other wouldn't get to come if no guest was listed. And when I say guest, yes, I mean that they still have to have a ticket to enter and all the rules of admission apply. It's not a free guest pass or anything. It just means that another person in your party can come with you if they didn't get the reservation themselves. So at the last event, we got several of the same reservations, but some of them were not the same. And keep in mind, many of these things are going on at the same time or overlapping times, so you still must choose what you want to do and what you don't want to miss out on. All right, tip number 6. Don't forget that there are virtual queues every morning. In order to get into the main Disney shopping areas with all of the new and collectible releases, you will need to get a virtual queue. There is a standby line available sometimes, but I know for the stores I was attempting to enter, they were usually closed off because they will only accept so many. So unless you're willing to get there and start waiting in line around 5 in the morning, it's very unlikely that you're going to get into those standby lines. I think basically standby space is reliant on people not showing up and using their virtual queue, which for shopping doesn't seem to happen much. People buy a lot quickly and sometimes with multiple people. So if shopping is a top priority for you, you'll want to make sure that you are up and ready each day for the virtual queue, and ready even earlier if you feel you need to get into the standby queues. Now, they haven't released all of the details for the virtual queues for this year, 2024's event, but last time the queue opened at 6 a.m. and you were able to only add one guest to shop with you for one queue at a time. So meaning that you needed to choose the store that you were trying to get a queue for. You couldn't enter the queue in hopes of getting any shop that you wanted. So you had to select one, and if you didn't get that one, you didn't get the other ones either. There were multiple shops and they don't really show what merchandise can be found in each one. So to me, it was a bit of a gamble to see what you could and just check out which one that you got into. It's very hard to tell what merchandise will be there, even though sometimes before the event they will release certain items and which store that they're going to be in. I'm personally not a big shopper. I just sort of look around for things that I'm interested in. So even if it was disappointing to not get to look into each of the shops, it was okay for me. The shopping can get a little intense if you have specific things that you're trying to get. So do your best to research what items will be in what store so that you don't waste your time. And if you have other people with you, I would recommend trying to get different shops so that you don't limit yourselves to just one store. Now, just like the reservations, don't forget to add that extra guest when you claim a queue, or they may be denied access with you if they don't get their own queue to that store. Also, you don't get to choose your time that you want to shop. It is virtual queuing, just like for the rides in the park. They will give you a boarding group, and when you're notified that your boarding group is ready, you have 1 hour to arrive at the location that you got admission for, or you miss your chance to enter that store. Now, last thing about virtual queues, you do this in the Disneyland app. When I first did it, I searched and searched thinking that it was in the D23 app, and it was not. You go to the virtual queue area in the Disneyland app, and on the mornings of the event, you will see that the D23 stuff is there, but it's in the Disneyland Resort app, just like you would use if you were visiting the park. Okay, now before we get into our top 5 tips and reminders for the D23 event, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I will be doing videos of my D23 experience this year, and it's coming very soon, so if you want to check those out, that is the best way to get notified. Alright, tip number 5, be prepared but be flexible. The schedule of events is overwhelming at D23, in the best way possible, but it is. Already listed for this year, there will be 5 stages, which, if it's anything like in the past, they will all be offering entertainment simultaneously. You're having to coordinate shopping time with looking around the main show floor, with making sure that you don't miss any reservations you acquired, and at the same time finding time to eat, take restroom breaks, and accounting for the time it takes to get to each of your activities to get a good seat. And yes, even if you have a reservation, it's best not to wait until the last minute to get in line, because if you want a decent seat and not to have to watch everything on the jumbo screen in the back, you'll still have to do a little bit of waiting. Just make sure that you get into the right line. So if you actually have a reservation, you'll be getting in a different line than the standby line. So make sure you double check that before you get into the line. Just be flexible that things can change. You might miss something that you hadn't accounted for, or maybe you end up overlapping plans like virtual shopping queue that becomes available at the same time as a panel that you don't want to miss. You end up having to make quick decisions sometimes about your priorities, even with all of the planning. You're kind of planning for possibilities, but nothing's set in stone. Just remember, you cannot do everything. You cannot see everything. You won't be able to buy everything. It's fine to be organized and have a plan, but if you go into it thinking that you paid a lot of money and you have to do it all, you're just going to be frustrated and disappointed. And remember, this is fun. It's a celebration of all the fun things that you like to do with Disney, because obviously you're an ultimate Disney fan if you're looking into this. The ultimate experience is just that you're enjoying it. Now, the more that you're prepared, the more prepared you'll be when changes happen. For example, every morning for entrance, you need to get there early. The event doesn't open up until 9, but you have to go through multiple lines to get to the entrance, and they have to coordinate huge crowds in one place. So don't wait until 9 a.m. to get there. Think much earlier, and even earlier if you're driving in. Tip number 4, think ahead when it comes to food. Food offerings are very limited considering the amount of people at the event, as well as the fact that everyone is trying to eat at the same times. You have limited time to grab something, and getting food means another queue that you're having to wait in. Most people didn't even look like they were making choices of eating. It was just whatever they were closest to and what was available. All I remember seeing were a few counters upstairs that sold prepackaged things like sandwiches, drinks, and small snacks. Then on the main floor, there was like your casual convention food, which seemed like hot dogs, fries, and that sort of thing. And then they did bring in several food trucks outside in front of the convention center, which people said were very good, but the lines were obviously very long. Now, you are allowed in and out privileges to the event with your badge, but the amount of time that it would take to leave property and find food, I feel just wouldn't be very practical. I'm personally sort of picky when it comes to food. I don't like a lot of takeout, and I didn't like the idea of having to wait in more lines and stress about missing anything on a schedule. So I brought my own food in a small cooler that fit in my bag so that I could snack and eat between events when I was ready. It saved me so much time, and I was very happy for it because it makes me anxious to try new foods, or if I get something that I really don't like, it just shuts down my appetite and makes me not feel great the rest of the day. So I do personally recommend that. It's not under any of the policies that you can't bring your own food this year, but also be considerate and reasonable. Bring things that you need. I looked at it like the same rules that apply for Disneyland Park. You can have a small cooler bag as long as there's no loose ice, it fits in a bag, and it doesn't infringe on anyone else's experience. But also note that it might still add policies that we're not aware of, and make sure to check that before bringing anything into the event. Also, if you have any medical conditions that require a certain diet, know that you should bring your own stuff because the choices are very limited. I also brought a full water bottle, so I only needed to purchase water while inside. I don't remember if there were water bottle filling stations, so I have to check that out this time because there may be, and that would be very helpful too. Okay, tip number 3. Pack the right items in your bag. And I don't mean packing to come on this trip. I mean packing as in your bag that you're bringing into the event each day. Despite staying in a hotel very close to the event, I never utilized that distance in the middle of my day. I never left the event and returned. I just stayed all day because one thing led to another, and I could never find a big enough gap of time that would allow that if I didn't want to miss something or feel like I was rushing. So here are some of the main things that I think are important to have in your bag. Obviously, your badge. Do not forget your ID and your badge. You will need those things at the event, as well as any proof for discounts that you might get. Some booths offer discounts to D23 Gold members, Disney Chase Visa members, and Magic Key holders, so it doesn't hurt to ask. Of course, water and snacks or food if you're like me. A jacket or some sort of cover-up. Wear layers so that you are comfortable, but to me it was very cold in there and I wanted layers. Anaheim in August is hot, so it could be deceiving that you want to wear a tank top and shorts, but once inside in the AC, it is so high that you may want pants and a hoodie. So be prepared if temperature is something that greatly affects your comfort level like me. Have some sort of hand wipes or hand sanitizer. The restroom lines are very long, so unless you need to use the facilities when you just want to wash your hands, it's a hassle. Have some hand wipes so that you don't have to get into that line just to do that. A reusable bag. Now, last time we actually got a reusable bag on the first day, but who knows if that will be the case this year. Several of the booths on the main floor hand out little goodies and they quickly accumulate, so you want somewhere to carry them all. I preferred a backpack just because then I was hands-free in the tight crowds and it was comfortable, but make sure that you have something to collect all those little things because you quickly start to gather them together and it's like, where do I put them? And if you don't want to take the time to go back to your hotel room, then you've got a lot of stuff to carry with you. A power bank of some sort is very important for your phone. Between taking pictures, checking your schedule, and doing virtual queues, your phone can die very quickly and everyone is in search of the same and few power outlets available. So have a power bank so that you can charge up when you need to, even while you're doing something else, and you're not relying on having to find a power outlet to plug a cord into. A cushion or seat for long lines. Now, I don't know if they're still permitted, but several people purchased small foldable stools for while they were waiting in long lines. Particularly the lines that you have to go and wait in the basement are uncomfortable because it's concrete like a parking garage. It's very clean. It's the basement of the convention center, but it's concrete and it's very air conditioned, so it's uncomfortable to sit on the ground, but you're in there for a really long time. You could easily be waiting a couple hours in there if you're needing to do standby. So being able to sit on a cushion or a collapsible stool that fits in your bag can make a huge difference. Lastly, earplugs. I love doing events and visiting places and being in all the excitement, but that much noise all day long can get exhausting. Also, in the queue spaces, it just echoes, so it adds to the sound. I prefer Loops as my go-to brand. They're very comfortable to me. They're reusable and just very comfortable, and they come in a convenient case. So I just always keep a pair in my bag wherever I'm at, and what I really like is that I can still usually hear people near me if they're talking to me at full volume, so I don't feel isolated, but it cuts back on the excess noise. So I definitely recommend an earplug of your choice because it makes the day more enjoyable. But these ones, they don't do the weird expansion thing. They're just little silicone. They fit in nice and simple, and they're kind of discreet too, so people don't always see when you're wearing them. Tip number 2, visit the Disney parks. So even though D23 is a separately ticketed event from admission into the Disney parks, it is a great time to visit the parks. The weather is warm, but it cools off a little bit at night. So if you're coming from far and have to get a hotel anyway and are able to make that happen, I do recommend visiting Disneyland and Disney's California Adventure while you're here. Now, if you don't have a Magic Key Pass, which is an annual pass to the parks, though I would say allow for extra days to do it. Trying to plan a park day on a day where you are at the D23 event, I feel would be a waste of money. You would get so few hours in the park after a long day at the convention that it just wouldn't justify purchasing the ticket unless that's absolutely the only way that you can do it. But if you can make it happen, it's a great way to do 2 things in one trip. Just allow yourself a couple extra days so that you're not feeling like you're having to cram it all into one day, because something will give. You're not going to be able to get your full experience in the park, or you're not going to be able to get your full experience at D23 if you try to do both things in the same days. Alright, and finally we are to tip number 1, so if you made it this far, let me know in the comments. But my first, number 1 most important tip is to be patient. This may seem obvious, but I truly mean it. You will wait in line after line for everything, so treat each line as a part of the experience. If you are going alone, meet the people next to you. Don't treat queues like punishment before the reward, or you'll regret this experience. It is a large convention with crowds, and the staff are doing their very best to make everything safe and functional. As security, they must inspect everything, every zipper in your bag, so have it ready and out and open to help speed the process up for everyone. When you enter a room with a stage area, staff members direct you to where you sit, so you don't get to choose your seat, with the exception of the whole Honda experience that's happening this year. For that, you do choose your seat when you purchased your ticket, but for everything else in the convention center, you have to go where they direct you to go. Now, sometimes you get a great seat, sometimes you don't, but it's not the staff member's fault where you end up sitting. They file everybody in order as to how they're walking in, and they sit you to where it works the best for safety and filling it in quickly so that everybody can quickly get inside and have the best experience without any chaos. Be polite and considerate of everyone around you. We are all here for the same reason and trying to get the same things. It is a convention that is meant to be fun, and it is not life-threatening to not get the new munchling or not. So relax and enjoy the event, because it is a lot of fun if you go into it remembering that it is a fun event that you should be enjoying and not about how much merchandise you can buy or accumulating how many panels you can get into, even though obviously we all want to get to do as much as we possibly can. To some extent, you have to understand you just can't do it all. And that makes you just want to come back and do it again. And there's new things every time. So sit back, be patient, plan everything out, but understand everybody around you is doing the same thing. Okay, I hope I was able to give you a start to planning your trip to D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Experience this year. If you made it to the end and found this helpful, please comment down below with what tip from this video was most helpful to you. I can't wait until the event, but I do have a big eventful trip coming up at the end of July, so check back in here on the Busy Bee Chronicles, as I will be taking my first ever cruise to Alaska before D23. So I'll see you then, and thanks for buzzing by.